advertising has a very important influence on rejuvenating brands, keeping them young, keeping them in the position they want to see them. And for me, that's the exciting part of the profession that has really kept me going. Through the years, what I picked up is that the fundamentals don't change, even when platforms evolve. First problem about any brand is identify your essence and the reason why you exist. First problem is that people don't even understand what a brand is. A brand is simply a bundle of benefits that have been communicated to a particular target audience. So the moment you don't keep yourself abreast of issues, you become like the dinosaurs and you may become extinct.
Hello everyone, welcome to Stories and Journeys, where we explore the transformative power of learning, growth, and resilience. Join us as we uncover untold narratives and ignite curiosity. My name is Oluwatimilei Oyedeji. Joining us here today is an advertising Amazon, a professional with almost 4 decades of experience in the integrated marketing communication space in West Africa, the second female president of AAAN, and the CEO, lead consultant at the Ladybird Media Agency. She's no other person than Madam Bunmi Oke. Hi, Ma.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I actually like to be called Bunmi Oke to keep it simple, but thank you for the introduction and thank you for reminding me that I've spent almost 4 decades. Yes. Yes.
We're so honored to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
It's been one that we look forward to learn from you. Looking at the amazing work you've done within the industry.
Thank you very much.
For over 4 decades, you've been touching and building brands. You've been ensuring that brands are able to attain their full potentials, and you've worked across West Africa and EMEA markets, working on both local and international brands. How has that experience been for you, Ma?
Well, thank you very much. I think I should first say thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to share the story. I think for me, I had liked the fact that I think from the time I was young, maybe I'd been primed for a global outlook, having been born out of the country. Yeah. So it was quite exciting for me to have the opportunity to think not just within a border, but across borders. I even found out that my experience, even as a young child, came in very handy because I found out that advertising is a modern profession. I didn't realize that some of the brands I was going to work on in Nigeria were brands I grew up with as a child. For example, I knew Cadbury, as a child growing up because, there was Cadbury's chocolates we all grew up on, and there was Kellogg's cornflakes and what have you. So it was interesting to watch brands transcend from generation to generation, how they sustain the youthfulness. Because I always crack jokes that, for example, on a brand like Kellogg's, Snap, Crackle and Pop, I knew them as characters as a child of 5. And at 60, they still haven't grown old. Some are there, maybe only that they now wear headphones and things. Maybe they are just more modernized. But it tells you how advertising has a very important influence on rejuvenating brands, keeping them young, keeping them in the position they want to see them. And for me, that's the exciting part of the profession that has really kept me going, because I find that advertising and marketing communication is a modern profession. So you have to keep on learning and relearning. And for me, that's the exciting part. That's even what keeps me going. I like the fact that I have the opportunity to learn and relearn from even people like you, the young, the older ones. That's the beauty of advertising. It is age neutral, but it is, if your mind can be renewed to give it what it takes. Because advertising always will be, and marketing communication will always be what you call a modern profession. So the moment you don't keep yourself abreast of issues, you become like the dinosaurs and you may become extinct. And that's what happens to brands too. The brands that go extinct just refuse to change. And that's why they go out. So I think the fun part of it is seeing global brands cut across markets, seeing how similar we all are as people are yet so different. I'll give an example. I remember years when we first started launching a product like Raiko Cube. I had the privilege of actually launching it from what you call, in those days, when you have architecture, from when you have an architectural drawing, it's actually from scratch, from name.
Wow.
Unilever in those days, yes. So we call the technical drawings, when you just see it as a cube, you see it as an idea. I mean, when I go today and I get samples of Oracle Cube, I laugh because my children used to even grew up on Oracle Cubes because, of course, working in advertising and marketing, my children almost became like almost like guinea pigs. Every brand I worked with, I'll test it on them.
True.
They will launch it. I'll get their opinion, especially if it was towards their target audience and the age. So the point I'm bringing out, something like Oracle Cubes, I had the privilege of launching into Nigeria as a young executive.
Wow.
Then I was working in LTC Advertising. And that was one of the leading advertisers, but we also had an affiliation then with J. Water Thompson worldwide. So it took us from region, we did it across Nigeria. Then what was more interesting about it was that seeing it trying to compete with a brand like Maggie, which I had worked on at the early stage of my career, like when I was 22. Then I was now a 30-something-year-old executive working on a brand that we're going to relaunch. Right from technical drawing, you could see the concept. Where do you put a pot? What colors? But what I want to bring more interestingly out for us is that 2 or 3 lessons I learned from global and local launches is that we are so similar yet so different. A color like red, for example, in cooking, is good. In those days, Unilever, they never allowed colors like blue because it was synonymous with fungi.
Interesting.
You know, and people saw it. But now, you know, people, it's changing. I'm saying things are evolving. That's why you must keep yourself. Because now some people, you know, because you have the generation X and Z that even want to be deviant. Is that blue they want because is that color that doesn't conform that they want? So colors change, but more importantly, you have to understand nuances and cultures. They had a commercial that was shot, and they brought foreigners to Nigeria to shoot the commercial. It was okay. This was like a second commercial. But they went all the way to South Africa, but somebody forgot a detail. You know what happened? They were turning the pot of stew with the left hand. You know what, in Africa? I mean, in England, America, Japan, they don't worry about things like that. But in Africa, of course they had, and it's not like now where you can edit and just change things and flip them. You know, it meant like almost going back to the drawing board to get somebody, because somebody just, that level of detail, somebody was cooking with their left hand. And you know, it's like obosi in Africa. So the point is, you can imagine that level. So one thing it taught me, even as a person, is to have a very good level of detail and understanding. So I think, even as a person, I think it did wonders for me in terms of making me look much more intelligent than I probably would have been, because you learn so much.
True.
You know, so I think that's the fun part. And apart from that, we had very good training, both local and internationally. We don't just do training by Zoom. We used to actually go for conferences globally in different countries. I've traveled the world on advertising, and it has exposed me to so many, from conferences to shooting commercials to just even doing strategic planning. I mean, I can't go to how many countries, both in Africa and outside Europe, and so on and so forth. But the point I'm bringing is, I wonder if people have that level of exposure and training like we did in our days. Whilst you might say you read it, I don't think teaching somebody how to read by saying just cook a cookbook is the same as practical exposure and international exposure. So I think it also gave me the opportunity to hold my own, because I had an advantage of seeing the African perspective. Because when we go for shoots or we go for strategic planning meetings, I might tell them, look, I'll give you an example. Red as a color. Let's go back to red. You know, there was a time until they started getting used to this Valentine in Nigeria. You know, there was a time Valentine had no meaning in Nigeria. We were not.
Really?
No, I mean, when I was about 20-something, it wasn't as marketable a platform as it is now. You know, it has grown. You find that when you were in primary school, were you doing Valentine? No, but you find your children now, they do Valentine Day and all that. That's what I'm trying to say, it's evolving. So my point was, the color red in Nigeria was synonymous with Shango, worshipping, negative. So those are the kinds of, and people saw red as danger. You know, it was only used for danger. Yes, but you see, then as Valentine came, people started realizing, no, there's love. Love is there's a heart, there's warmth. It's like black. There was a time black was only synonymous with so-called death. But they'll say the black sexy dress. or say a black car, So the point is really in the mind, all these things. And that is the beauty of understanding different cultures and allowing things to transcend. Even brands in those days were very international in terms of their outlook. But now people want the Niger feel. People want to know, even if I'm using an international brand, you must understand my culture and understand me. So things are evolving, So you can have, for example, a person drinking a bottle of Star, but it must be wearing a Nigerian cap to show that it's for us. We've gone past the colonial era where it must be 3-piece suit. So I think that is some of the experiences that I love to share. That through the years, what I picked up is that the fundamentals don't change, even when platforms evolve. There was a time TV was a new medium of communication, and it was a big deal because it brought together sound, visuals, and so much. But the internet is the same thing. It's just a new platform. You just got to understand how it works, and you got to understand the pros and cons. And that is what I see. Advertising keeps on bringing new ways of thinking. There was a time you couldn't even launch a campaign without having maybe the basic traditional advertising. But nowadays, you find that there are so many non-conventional ways of marketing that you just have to keep yourself abreast of issues and keep an open mind. And I think that's what advertising does for those who care to remain in the profession. I think it's a very fun profession, if you ask me.
Absolutely. I mean, because like you said, once you're in advertising, you also need to be able to reinvent yourself, just the way you're inventing brands, But I think that's quite insightful, because while you were speaking, I was trying to connect the dots back to when you spoke about red being for Shango and, the cultural nuances that have to play with the market, And I think that your experience, which we look forward to learning more from you today, would help us, sort of draw inferences to where it all began from. You were the second female president of AAAN, and I think in 2014 you were also a council member, national council member, and as a time you also with Winbees, working with Arcon. You did so many fantastic stuff. But when we talk about brand building, what would you say is the core, for any brand that's aspiring, to remain endeared in the mind of their consumers? What would you say will be the core, when talking about brand building?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think from a professional point of view, the first problem about any brand is to identify your essence and the reason why you exist. So I always tell people the simplest, even now that I work with a lot of SMEs, because that's one of the areas I have passion, because I look at it that some of the country brands in other countries, like the Googles of this world, the McDonald's, they started as SMEs and it became global. And I always ask myself, I really would love Nigerian brands who understand the importance of marketing communications to actually grow, but they understand having an accountant, they understand having a lawyer, but they don't understand why you need a professional marketing communication expert. And I'm hoping government will give that service too by involving a pool of people to do that for businesses to grow, especially under SMEs, not just everybody says brand building, no, professional marketing communication expert. But coming back to what you're saying, I think I would say manage by objectives.
Okay.
That is the simplest way. When people say, I want to do a TV, radio, why? What is the essence of your brand? The first problem is that people don't even understand what a brand is. A brand is simply a bundle of benefits that have been communicated to a particular target audience that are ready to pay the price at the right place, at the right time, and so on and so on. Simple. So it may look as simple as an offering as I have an airline and I'm only selling business class tickets. So my price point is, and I only do Lagos to Cairo and Dubai. And so that could be your business proposition. Maybe you have a target audience and you found that that's what they want. So having said that, what type of people would be attracted to that kind of brand? There are people that probably can afford it. They have maybe business reasons. So you have to position that they are not unlikely to be just young holiday, So you've got to be very clear about it. That's why I say, what is the reason why? Then you might find that those target audience, they actually don't have time to watch TV. Maybe they're already on their phones and their PAs or whatever. So you may find like, what is entertaining and nice to see yourself on TV? You may find that is not the medium. If you notice, there's some very posh brands like Rolls Royce and what have you? You see TV commercials. They know here's what they call luxury marketing. There's another level. Not everything is for everybody. Not everything is mass market oriented, and that is why it's very important to understand what you're doing and what you're doing. So, in creating any brand, the first thing is to identify what would you like that brand to be and why. To me, it's almost like creating your personal brand. Who are you? Why are you what you are? And why is the reason why you want to be? You might be a fun person. You may be somebody that says, I have no apologies. I want to be a very conservative person. It's about choices. Because that's why I love even God. Everybody's so different, yet they're so similar. So there's this, I would say there's a space in the sky for every plane to fly. But in the sky, you see 747s, you may see propeller, you may see helicopter, because they are different, but they're all flying. And they will all go off well and they will land well. So it's the same thing with a brand. Your brand may not be everything to everybody. You got to be very clear what you want. Some of it takes a while. I'm sure even when the Wonder Brothers started flying, they never thought the world would take off like this, because some people even go with air balloon. They're not even in air, but they're in the skies too. They just stay at their own level. So what I'm trying to say is that that's the way brands are. Just picture the skies where you have different offerings, you have different levels in which you're operating, you have different target audience, you have different price points, and you have different places in which they take off and land. So you got to decide why is your own where it is, and go and ensure that you hone your skills in terms of the fundamentals of marketing will never change. Where's the place, the price, the product, the promotion, and all the pieces that you have. But what makes your brand stand out is that it must have its own USP, unique selling proposition. Sometimes it's just even for me as a person, I decided that if I've been spending so many years building brands, I must develop my own personal brand. And two things I did is, apart from people saying, okay, you came up with Ladybird, that was even divine, but I now chose a default of pink. I'm not that I love pink, but it's just I wanted it to be clear that I'm a woman, because the day somebody made a mistake, I said, Bunmi Oke, because we don't use acronyms, we don't use Mrs. or Mr. or something. And somebody told me, I was feeling very happy and cool with myself. And somebody said, you do a fantastic job, but I thought you were a man. And I thought, so if a fantastic job is done, is it a man that
can only do fantastic?
So I now said, okay, how do I ensure that I differentiate myself so that they know that this is a woman, and I'm happy to be a woman? Because I don't have to be a man to be. I am effeminate. I like my ribbons. I like my bows. I like my frills. I like all that, Just that you have good women, you have bad women, you have bad men, I have bad. So that the gender part of it doesn't mean I should exclude I don't have to be a tomboy. Let's put that to be a successful professional. I'm actually like my feminine ribbons and crowns and all those things. So, and it gives me an opportunity to think differently.
Correct. And
I think that's what the beauty of Inaugural. You bring new perspectives to the table. That's the beauty of it. So, back to the part about building a brand, all I would say is that the fundamentals don't change. Be clear about your objectives. That, if anything, please just always ask why. And you find that question seems simple. But most people don't know why. They just say, I just want to be on television. I just want to be a successful brand. Oh, what is success to you?
To you. Because that's the only way you can actually measure as well.
Yes. And you can even define. I'll give an example of what I'm saying. Another example. If I like to use the aeroplanes as like how segmenting the market. Everybody is traveling from Lagos to Abuja or Lagos to London, all right? That aircraft is divided into maybe 5 compartments. Everybody's going to get there at the same time.
Yeah.
All these big, some things are assumed in air travels. Safety, comfort, feeding. You cannot go there and say, I'm going to fast on an airplane. They don't allow it. So you must have some place, and you must go to the toilet on the aircraft. So they have to I'm just to say an aircraft that doesn't have a toilet. So what I'm trying to explain is that some fundamentals are going to be there. That's the same thing with brands. But if you look at each segment of the aircraft, there's so-called first class.
Correct.
They're all in the same phenomenon.
Correct.
They will get there at the same time, but they have a different offering. Maybe they'll give you silver service. They will have people, you have maybe a bit more space to sleep. You can have sleeper bed. In fact, they'll be giving you champagne. Whereas there's economy, there's premium economy, and there's even cargo. Which means you don't even have to come, just put your load, let it drop, and so on and so forth. So my point is, that to me tells you how brands are also segmented. They are all for the same customer and consumer. A woman of 35 to 60 who has a home to run, to stress, but they have different segments. People have different needs. what I might consider important, somebody else may not consider important because of lifestyle as well as opportunities. So, but at the same time, we're going to go to the market. So you have supermarkets, you have hypermarkets, you have Igbo market, you have the one that will come to you. So it's the same principle. So when you're designing your product, packaging and things, you have your customers' needs in mind. So I'll say, at the end of the day, that's why brands are usually based on customer-centric needs.
Beautiful. In 1986, thereabouts, you started out as a PR executive, with Grant Advertising at the time.
I see you've done your homework.
What would you say, led you into advertising?
To be honest, that's why I like questions like this. And that's where I would say there's the grace of God in life. Actually, I wanted to be a journalist in fact, yes. In my whole head at that point, as a young lady, I wanted to be a journalist. And the only reason why I wanted to be a journalist is that I had women around me. I lived with my aunt who was in broadcasting. I had an aunt who was in media. So I think those were the kind of role models I saw. So I thought, okay, being a journalist would be nice. But I found that somehow I couldn't get into journalism. But let me even backtrack a bit. Getting into advertising, I believe, was fortuitous. And I'll tell you why. When I was in school, I went to Holy Child College and Queen's College. When I was in Queen's College for A-levels, I was a school debater. I'd always had the gift of that. So I was a school debater for the school. And one thing I discovered is that I could always make up my mind. And I learned to pick up how I was very analytical. But I've noticed that I could always think out of the box. When everybody was doing one thing, and why I'm going to that point was that everybody else did jam. I refused to do jam. I just decided I'm not doing jam because as far as I was concerned, I didn't really enjoy school.
Oh, really?
No, I didn't enjoy school at all. In fact, I found school, in fact, I had to have a meeting as to why I was in school in because I thought it was really a bore. In England, it was so much more interesting. But by the time I got to Nigeria, it was like they are ramming things down your brain. So I really had to ask, wait, why am I in school? And then they explained to me that if you don't go to school, you won't be useful in life. One study. Anyway, so I had a bag in my head that, okay, I asked them, what do you need to pass? They said 50%. Children can be amazing. I used to get 50, 51. I never failed though. And it's good to put it into perspective. I got 50, 51 for my first primary. In fact, I used to feel sorry for my sisters and cousins because they all would come first in class. And I used to tell them this thing is a fraud because they will give them one book that I won't even read. I say, see them, they'll give me an enlightened. And they'll look at all of them as if, well. So I go to the board, they say, this book, why do you think like this? But I didn't know it was my ability to think out of the box. But I'm coming somewhere. What then happened was that they noticed that I didn't like reading like that. I like to read colorful things because I didn't realize I'm an auditory learner. I learned by hearing, talking, and seeing. But now when they just say cram 1 to something, I was thinking, I say, how? I don't understand that. And I wasn't afraid to say I don't understand. So I then had a bargain anyway. I now got to A-level and I looked for a course that I could do such that nobody else would be. I looked for where the competitive space was low. You can imagine if a child can think that way. I mean, I had enough analogy to say, they say, Bunmi, you'll be very good at law, you're so good at law, you talk well. But you see, by the time I said, how many points do they need? 11. I said, I don't have the energy to get, and I don't want to be rejected. So I wanted to save myself the trauma. I knew that, I had seen people, they will reject that and say, you get second class or they bring you third. And I wasn't under an illusion. You can imagine a young child, I could think for myself. So I said, rather than argue with everybody, let me look for a course. I did what they call, I chose by elimination. I eliminated the things I could not do. So I knew that I wasn't going to be a teacher. I wasn't going to be a doctor. I wasn't going to be a lawyer. So I now saw one course. I now looked at the brochure of the University of Lagos, and I wanted to stay in Lagos or go abroad. So since the girl was to stay in Nigeria, I looked at it, I found that there was this new course in Unilag called Integrated Social Sciences. And why I say it today is because in Queen's College, you asked me, they will ask me to that, what are you doing? And I'll say with confidence, Integrated Social Science. It's not you. Whereas others were doing law, young people, they say, I'm going to be a doctor. I said, but they're going to reject half of you. And I'm going to get in there before all of you. So what is the problem? And that's exactly what happened. Of course, Bunmi got in first because there was no competition. But let me tell you why I'm saying it's for tutors. I now had done a course called advertising because it was a combination of sociology, psychology, and mass comm. I'm coming somewhere. That's why I went to do that long story. So anyway, I had done a bit of advertising. So what happened really? And why I say it's for tutors, in the dating game, my husband, then I was still dating him as a 21-year-old, and he had this friend who was in advertising and marketing. So he used to tell me, with the way you go about, just like honing your points, the way you have your point of view, you know, you'll be very good in advertising. But you see, I've been doing it because of, I've been honing my points because of school debates. That's what it, you know, you're not in school debates, you have to give the reasons why or why not, you know, you have to have a point of view. But when he now said advertising, I thought, oh, that's true. I never really thought that. I said, well, I did a course in advertising. Okay, maybe I should. Anyway, as I say, he became my first boss. Then his name was, then was Dapo Abraham, but he got born again, changed his name to Dapo Abraham. Anyway, he became Charles Abraham. So he was my first boss in LTC. Oh. And as they say, the rest is history. That was how I got into advertising.
Interesting.
Now, the question of PR was also why I say for tweeters, because when I did my youth call, I actually was trying to get a job in a media house because I'd done a course called Integrated Social Science. They thought I did Integrated Science. I should come and teaching about how maybe the cockroaches and then something about leaves. They didn't understand. In one problem in Nigeria, we don't understand things, and we won't ask. And I explained, sorry, I didn't do this. I did Integrated Social. So they said, okay, go to a media house. Anyway, that's how I got to work in Triumph Publishing Company in Kano. Not knowing that was the beginning of my career because I learned page planning, proofreading. You know, in those days, you don't have all these proof, you know. So I learned to detail page. It was all fun. Not knowing that we're coming to page plan where you read the adverts page and all that thing. So if I was bored, I went to meet the editor, who later on, funny enough, I met him at national conference. The world is a small place. But anyway, he then became the owner of, the MD then became the owner of Daily Trust. The chairman of Daily Trust. But that's even to show you 30 years later, and then we now met at national conference. But I'm just saying how life plays out. I got in purely by, was never in my plan, to be honest. But they put me in public relations first to say, okay, that they saw the way and they moved me to advertising. So that was how I ended up having all around. I can do public relations. Every time I do a lot of it. That's why people don't know I did media. I became a media director because at a point there was, you know, problems bring about opportunities. That's what I always say. Okay. When I was in LTC advertising and I'd been to the rank of client service director, then media director resigned. And in those days, you had to do everything. We would do event planning. We would do media. I remember we do Lux. You know, you go to Lux beauty pageant. We do everything. It's not like now that they fragment everything. They say digital space. No, we do everything. So you had to learn media plans, how to do media planning and all that kind of thing. Though now you do it with a bit more scientific, but you need to understand the radio stations, how each medium works and so on and so forth. So we had pretty much rounded experience. So what then happens that there was a problem. The media director resigned. And I think, as usual, they came and said, Bunmi, it's like you might be able to do both media and client service director. What I would say is that don't be afraid to take on challenges. Because one thing is that, and even they're not going to pay you, because one thing you can do is that, I always say, look at the opportunities and the problems. I looked at the fact that, well, at least I'll get the experience. So I didn't turn it down. They didn't give me any extra pay, but that was how I became client service and media director. So that's how I learned about so much about media and everything. So people are shocked when I tell people that people don't know I've been a media director. I know, that's why I know so many people in the media too, from that. I know client side. I know people on supplier side. So everything was, to me, I said, you don't lose anything. And so by the time, I remember even then my boss used to, any problem I had when I come back, he said, go put it in writing. I didn't know I was preparing for bigger things because I can write letters because that's how I learned to write. Before I could say anything, they said, Bunmi, go and write it. I write as clients. So anyway, everything was honing me, my skills. So all I would say is that don't be afraid to volunteer. My boss then, Mrs. Thomas, she was the first female advertising president of us. I had no clue that I was going to become the second because there were other women well ahead of me. But one thing I learned from Mrs. Thomas that she gave me opportunities. And she might say, I used to follow her to a lot of these conferences. She'll put me on one committee, but I'll do the work. You see, that was different. I didn't realize that in doing that work, I was also building my own reputation. Because I got to a point that people say, but Bunmi, when she's on this committee, she will make a contribution. She's impactful. So the day I was even going to become AAAN vice president, I was on a post. And it was the men that even came together and said, because first they had known my skills, and it was not about gender. They knew that she had capabilities. And she would deliver. She was competent. Thank you. Because I had done it in other committees. I didn't just walk from the road and say, I just want to entitle. I had no such idea. So when I now got into vice president, then by the time I was going to become president, then I was working in 141 Worldwide, which was under the Primo Ghana Group. And I remember that my boss then, Lolo Akimi, came to me and even said, but they're looking for a president, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even quickly understand. You know, we women, we can be so efficient in the work that sometimes the casual things you forget. It wasn't my husband lucky that I said, but we can ask you to be president. I was still doing this work, what's doing, what's. Anyway, that was how they put me, and I was unopposed even as the president. But I learned something from that. You see, I never really understood later when they say promotion is from God, because I never realized how important. When it goes to your CV, I noticed that anytime I travel and I say, oh, I'm the president of that, they look at me twice. When I say I'm the head of this or say, they never looked at me the same way. But when I say I'm also a president of it, I noticed that people will take a double take. And I started realizing, oh, so this title of being the president of your professional association says things. I also realized it said a lot for my competence, for my expertise and my opportunity. And later on I understood when they say once a president, always a president, because up to now I get invited for so many things to speak as a past president. So I cannot tell them I didn't read. So even me, it keeps me on my toes. Because if somebody from the journal say, it's okay, from a female perspective, or just even as a past president, what's your view about this? I can't say, well, actually, I was sleeping yesterday, I chewing gum. It's a disservice to yourself.
Yes.
So I find that has given me a responsibility to continuously keep on reinventing myself. In fact, I went ahead and did a digital marketing course, if you may not know, with Aleph, yes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. If you don't know, I'm coming to there somewhere. So, yes, in fact, I became the first digital marketing certified Aleph where they came to, because we had an agreement with Ladybird to help promote the free training online. Yes. We'll talk about, yes.
That's some real work, that you put in there.
So you keep reinventing yourself.
Beautiful. I think I find that very insightful, and I want to double click on something. Looking at all the amazing things you've done, I wanted to ask you, what would you say were the core values, or ethics that sort of guided you to ensure that you're able to deliver on all of those tasks? Because I can imagine you have just 24 hours a day. You have families to take care of, you have your personal life to take care of, and you have actual 9 to 5. Then you have other responsibilities, being second female president, and those sort of other responsibilities you have at the time, being a council member. And then I was also at National Conference 2014, those things. What principles or ethics, sort of shaped you to be this fantastic Amazon that you are now?
Well, let me say thank God for problems create opportunities, like I kept on saying. One thing I learned early was that anything you do in life, do it unto God. If you do something and you say, whether it's free or it's paid for, and you can go to sleep and God called you and said, did you do the job well? Will you be able to say yes? And I found that was a very good way of keeping myself at a position of aspiring to always do things well. Because I looked at it that I do not like mediocrity, because it has no advantage, both in your personal life and in your official life. And I also was early enough, I also learned that success is not luck. It is hard work. Whether it is marriage, children, a job. I always knew early in life that people don't love you because you are just doing the job. They love you. Have you seen anybody that doesn't love a good player? They will love you when you do a good job. Even your husband will love you if you are a good wife. Your children will love you if you are a good mother. So love comes from doing the right thing and doing the best things. Then more importantly, it's called self-love. If you are designed to be a flyer, a high flyer, why are you working? Why are you putting yourself at it? But that is when I understood this fact of going to school. To be fair, I soon realized that going to school, maybe because I grew up in England. In England, they have options. By the time I came back to Nigeria and I went through culture shock, I didn't realize that school was a privilege. So the moment I realized that, wow, going through this one, you're even negotiating. Some people even want to go to school, they don't have the option. I soon realized that, and not only am I a woman that has privilege, I have purpose. So with privilege, you must use that privilege for the purpose for which God created you. So those are the things that kept me going. But I started learning all those things that even living life, when you get to certain ages, you find that you don't own your own life, no matter what you do. So I soon realized that every assignment, every task you're given in life is for a purpose. So I feel that when you see that there's a bigger purpose in life, both for yourself. And I learned one thing too early, that when you train others, you're actually training yourself, because you are recapping. When you do a good job, you're actually doing good for yourself without realizing, because people will come back and say, oh, the person can do a good job. Because if you don't do a good job, you won't be there when they say, don't bother. So you're actually building your own reputation. So it was by default. I didn't realize it. But the moment I started realizing, that's why I'm always happy to give back to, because I'm at a stage, at least I thank God today I'm 60. I started my career at 22. So at least, like you said, for reminding me, at 38 years, at least you'll be doing either, even if it's private sector, I've worked in government, I've worked in almost every facet of across the country. But I've also worked in very interesting places where I've got to meet so many fantastic people. And I then realized that why has one met these people? Why has my path crossed? Why has my career taken me all over the world? It can't just be because you are just, not just by hard work. There's always a bigger picture. And those are the things, when I start realizing that it's to add value to people, add value to yourself, add value to any people you come across. That's why I'm always happy to share stories, because it took me a long while to realize that one was actually privileged to go to school, to be able-bodied, to have a sound mind. You know, it's about perspective. The moment you start realizing that work is not just about money, it gives you a sense of belonging. It brings out skills. The Bunmi that I was at 22 is suddenly on the Bunmi I am at 60. And that came also through work, through meeting with people. Some will bash you, some will say, Bunmi, you did this well. Some will say, you didn't do this well. You learn, and you've been pruned, you've been battered, you've been pampered, you've also been pruned, you've also learned some lessons. So that is development, and you feel better and more confident for yourself to do even bigger and more important things. Even sometimes the simple things of relaxing and doing this. I can do this comfortably now because I don't like the word saying I've paid my dues, because people pay their dues and sometimes there's nothing to show for it.
But you really have.
No, what I mean by that, it's still about privilege. What I mean by privilege, it's still about privilege. Some people work hard, but they look bad, there's nothing to show for it. In the sense that everything has gone upside down. Not even no fault of theirs. Not because, I always joke that the only thing that makes one successful is that you take a decision and it turns out right. If you marry somebody and you have a successful marriage, they'll say, you know what you are doing. I've been married today, I thank God, for 35 years, going to 36. Of course, say, when you have a successful, you've done, yes. But there's also a grace for this. It's hard work to keep yourselves going. What I'm trying to bring out is that if you had married somebody, it didn't work, and I say, hey, see now, he didn't come. No, I'm not that you have to worry about what people are saying, but even to yourself, it doesn't give you confidence when you take decisions and everything you do. Your career, I've changed my jobs many times. I've done certain things, but it's all, when they say, by grace, everything works together for good. When it looks like that, your life looks as if you just were sprinting through life. It's not true. But God turns out some things that could have been a challenge becomes an opportunity later, or it becomes a stepping stone, and so on and so forth. Because there was a time I left Lagos. LTC, for example, in the 1990s, was a very fantastic agency, LTC Advertising. But my husband said he wanted to go to Abuja. And I've always known that my family takes priority over career. And I was always telling myself, when I say that, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a career. I've always known that I wanted a career, because by the time I even had my set of twins, and I sat at home for 11 months, and I didn't have their baby food, I knew that I wasn't a housewife material, that I would be bored to tears. And I think that's why God gave me two, because at 11 months, I already knew, okay, this one cries, this one doesn't, okay, what else did you add? I mean, it wasn't too tasking a job to look after two babies at a go anymore. I'd mastered it, let me put it that way. So I found that I have greater potential to do so much more and still achieve those goals. And besides now, the children that you think you are sitting there, they're all grown up now, they are busy living their lives, just like you expect. So all I'm trying to bring out is that, for me, I think, seeing the bigger picture of the fact that we're privileged to have work. And I say work, not just in monetary work, that you can think. Some people have some abilities that are disabilities that they can't even work. They even need people to help them. And they don't choose that life. So when you look at that, that to me is the first privilege. That we can speak, we can hone our skills. Then you now have the privilege of choosing the type of work you want, whether you want to close or the kind of job. Then you got a job that gives you excitement. I mean, at my 60th birthday, just in May, I had it with my children out of the country. I got a feedback from one of my sons, which really got me thinking. He said he knows that everybody, they find work very difficult and challenging. And to God's glory, both of them somehow are in advertising in their different, in a funny way. One is working in Amazon in digital marketing, and one is working in Channel 4 in the advertising department by some fortuitous reasons. I mean, that's why I say God has a way of doing things. But that's not, for me, there was the feedback I found very interesting. I said, he used to wonder that my mom would come back from work And she'll be excited. You just wonder, everybody, when they come back from work, they're grudgy and they're, but my mom will go to work and come back and she's even happy, she's excited. She'll go to Dubai today, she'll just come back from Nairobi, she's smiling. So you just wonder, really, please, what kind of work does this woman do? And that got me thinking that, oh, so at least you've been a good role model to show that it actually is a fun job. It was exciting for me. But it went to my personality because, and thank God also I had a supportive husband. Because what was a problem in advertising for many people, which a lot of women dropped out, was that they never liked, advertising can be very uncertain. How do I put it? Decision making, because mind you, you're working at clients beck and call, more or less, timing.
Correct.
So it can be very, very, how do I put it? Non-conventional in terms of your time. And that to me was the fun part. That no 2 days were the same. So in the morning I could go for a meeting, by the time I might be talking, for next time I'm at a dinner party. For me, that was the fun part. But to some people, that was the most stressful part, that is not set in stone and cast, like ministry, 8 o'clock, I knew I couldn't work in that kind of environment. So for me, it was the fun part. Oh, I could travel here tomorrow, I'm just at one place, tomorrow I'm sitting there, I have to write my report, no problem. Just get it done, I learned to work to my strengths. I'm a very night person, so I could write a report to 2 o'clock. When a client wastes my time, like I would have written my report in the report where they're wasting my time. I learned to manage time so that I can still live a life. But it was really like clockwork, because it can be demanding. That's the word. But it wasn't stressful for me. It was challenging. Let me put it that way, because I enjoyed what I did. I like meeting people. I'm a social people. I like fun. I don't mind partying. I mean, I had bits and pieces of everything. So it was, to me, it was just a fun profession, which allowed me to excel and achieve my goals.
Beautiful. I think I enjoyed that because when you think about it now, passion is really critical. And from what you say and the way you sound, it's very obvious that you're very passionate about this, because doing this for almost 4 decades is not child's play. So for young ladies out there, with their early 30s, trying to find their feet in their career, what would be your advice, to such people looking at, just take a step back, and look at it 38 years. Picture yourself being 30, what recommendation or advice would you give to someone that's 30 or 32, starting out or trying to find their feet in their career?
I would say if you're going to go into advertising, I think you will need what you call resilience. Because it's a job that requires late night sometimes, traveling, the ability to read ahead, preparing, organizing, and all that. So if you don't have, sometimes you have to wait on a client. And not because that's the nature of the job. You're in a service business. And if you don't please a client, you're just out of business, simple as that.
Correct.
So you're not going there, as much as you are equals intellectually, you're still at the service business, just like being on a plane and an air hostess is there, so can I help you out? You're providing a service. But I always let people know that providing a service doesn't make you a servant. There are 2 different issues. But you're providing a service, which is paid for. Now, what I would say is, first and foremost, love what you do.
Okay.
Know that advertising is a long haul. It's not a short thing if you want to get to the peak of your career. The problem I see with other people is that they're not really ready to wait, because it can be painstaking. I mean, you're writing reports, contract report, one client is throwing it back, say, I don't like this color, I like this color. But one thing I would say, if you really want a career that's going to keep you as a person, very modern, very avant-garde, trust me, advertising will do that. I've met so many, when people see the kind of, you have to deal with genres of music, artists, you will deal with hairdressers. You get to understand so many professions. Sometimes you're dealing with hairdressers because you have to do maybe a film shoot for a hair cream or something. So you get to become and look so intelligent, not knowing that it's because you've read every brief they've given you. When somebody told me that Bunmi Oke, I heard that day. Somebody said to me, Bunmi Oke is one of the most intelligent people I've read in my life. And I then thought, oh, if only they knew me my so-called Olodo days. But I wasn't Olodo like that. I wasn't daft. It's just that I had the ability to think differently. But more importantly, why could that person say that? Because advertising, I've worked in every facet of advertising and I read the briefs. So tell me why I won't know about different segments. So if I'm talking, I can talk from almost any angle of the economy, as well as manufacturing, production. What have you gone to factories? I mean, I've been exposed to so many things that honestly, if I was to write a book, it would probably be an encyclopedia. But my point is, I personally enjoyed every part of it because sometimes you're just going to a factory. Sometimes I went to the farm in Jos where the clients were. Then when we're doing Frisco, West, I mean, you've gone to shoot commercials in South. In fact, sometimes in South Africa we go and do film shoots. I remember that's what took me to Sun City in South Africa. We were shooting a close-up TV commercial, and to me it was, oh wow, I didn't even know that it was the so-called Sun City before I got there. I didn't even know that it was actually one of the wonders of the world until I got there. That was advertising for you, and I can tell you so many. I've gone to watch. In fact, it was the day I was researching for Etisalat. Went to shoot a commercial with Messi Ago in Barcelona, and it was my children said, "Mommy, do you know where you are? You are with Messi." I don't know about football, so I just what I mean by I already know the commercial side to
Correct.
I had to pretend that I was felt that it was so important. But my point, that's advertising for you. You get to see the boxes where a client is, especially if we're dealing with global clients.
Correct.
You get to go to state boxes, you drink the champagnes, but you still come back and go to your mushing bucket and buy because you have to know what's going on. So you learn to dine with the kings and live with the paupers, And I think as a person, advertising marketing, I think, really makes you a great person because your mind will be so open, you and become so elastic that honestly, I think we're really doing a disservice of not using the experience and expertise of how many people can say they've worked on brands that cut across almost every facet, both government, private sector. It's how will I put it? It's unquantifiable what you learn until you start talking. Then people now know that because you've picked up the information.
Absolutely.
So what I would say, and when you read the briefs, please read them. Don't and do your homework, because at the end of it, nobody can take that knowledge from you. So I think if you really want to have an exciting profession, you don't mind, you like non-conventional timing, you also want to travel the world and understand how things are built, I think advertising and marketing communications is fun. And that's why I enjoy even working on Ladybird now, because I'm building my own brand. And to me, that's the fun part of it.
Beautiful. I will speak about Ladybird now before we let you go. This session has been really, really insightful. Looking at what you do, at Ladybird, which I think is some amazing work.
Thank you.
How would you say that, some of the impacts you're driving with the clients, is sort of translating into return on investment for them or profitability for them? And how have you been able to sustain that business, for almost a decade now?
Look, thank you very much. I would say it's still back to professionalism and making a mark for yourself. Half of the businesses I have had the ability to be of service has come out of reputation. Clients that have known me all my years, maybe one way or say no. Sometimes, most of the business I get, they're even not through pitches. The ones I get that people give me, they come from the fact that I know you have the capability to do this and capacity. Help me sort this out. Help us do this, do that, and so on. And for me, I also then came up with a platform because I found that when I was leaving the very big agencies, one of the things I already knew I wanted to do, and I learned it actually from Wimbys. That's why I started this brand building series with Ladybird. Because when I was in the council in Wimbys, I just wanted to understand how women work better in the corporate world, especially when you work with so many men. That's why I joined Wimbys. I didn't know yet again I'll have the opportunity to grow through that, and they respected what I did, and I got onto the council, executive council at that point where I served for about 3 years. But what was so interesting for me for women is that I soon found out that women, they have all these things, but men don't understand women. Women are different. All these things, I then realized, women, nothing is wrong with you. It's just the way men and women are. We are just different people. So I needed to understand that sometimes you need to explain to men your way of thinking in a different way so that you reduce conflict. They can understand that really women bring a different perspective. Correct. But my husband always told me one thing. But me, you see, one thing he does on my side, I always have an ability to think different, or see things from a different. And you see, I didn't realize that is personally the gender part of corporate thinking, and that's what they say about boards. When everybody's seeing one thing, you are seeing other things, and all of you together. And that's why I think we had a great agency, because we all brought different perspectives. But one thing I then learned from Wimbys was that there was an NGO called Vital Voices that came to headhunt for, NGOs, they try to promote causes. And the cause they were under that was the fact that they wanted to train SMEs to export their goods and services to the US, but have standardization. And they needed experts in certain areas. They wanted experts in legal. They wanted an expert in, I think, design. They wanted an expert in export areas, and then they wanted someone in marketing communication, and there must be a woman. And at that point, it was only Bunmi they knew. You see, that's why it's good to have your reputation. Before now, everybody has joined us, but I mean, so they were virtually begging me to go for that training. So I went anyway, not knowing that it was going to be fortuitous in what I'm doing now. I never realized that because all my career, most of the time, we're training and working with marketing communication companies that were big. The Coca-Colas of this world, the BATs of this world, we are working with big multinationals. You know, the way they do business, they already understand what marketing communication skills are. It's about what project do we do, how do we do it. Well, SMEs don't even understand what marketing does with their business. True. So what they tried to do was teach an SME like a DIY kit of how to market. So they brought people like me to train. They had a train the trainer. How do you train people to understand that even if you're a small photographer company, how do you promote yourself online? You are not going to be able to do TV, you're not going to be able to do that, but you must still have a standardized logo, you must still standardize your business, promote yourself, do that. So all that kind of thing. And I thought, oh wow, this will be something I like to do when I go into my next line of business. You know, it's painstaking, but it's rewarding for me. And you know, through workshops. So that's really how I even got into some of this Ladybird brand building and all those kind of things. And it has given me a lot of visibility because I found at a point in Lagos, they invited me through the commission to come and do some branding for Lagos because they didn't realize there's what they call destination marketing. That is in all facets. That people don't even know that even that brand Nigeria needs to be marketed. But if you don't build a brand, that is why do people want to go to America and this? Because they marketed the country very well. And I love those Americans. Every film, if you notice that they have a policy, they must make a statement. No, we're doing that. Nigeria doesn't have any clear-cut marketing strategy. So today is this way. So they don't know. It's almost like the poor child. This same Nigeria, I remember when I was a child of a young lady of 20 or so. And I used to go to the UK a lot because my father lives in the UK. He's lived in all the, my father lives in the UK anyway. So I used to go and see my father because my parents were separated, but I grew up partially in the as a young child, but I came back to Nigeria. So anyway, we used to go to my UK, not because I was a rich kid, but because I needed to see my father. So my point was, when we go, they'll tell me, oh, you're from Nigeria, the all-rich country. That was the image Nigeria had. At the time. People now, they haven't even heard that image. Until the point they say, you're from Nigeria, move. So I can tell you, I can paint a trajectory of how a brand can go from being a top brand to almost, and it was just about brand Nigeria. Whereas the same person, if you have another passport, the way they treat you, it's about the image. Yeah, you're the same person. So to me, that is one of the things that bothers me a lot in Nigeria. That we're not doing ourselves the right, we're doing a big disservice to ourselves by not understanding the importance of managing the image of a personal brand or a corporate brand, or even a country brand. So I've learned one thing: we must manage our brands. Even when I was coming, I had to put on makeup now. It's all part of managing yourself. I thought, okay, I must have something big. It's not about managing images. You know, whether we like it, it's about, and then being true to yourself. Because me, I like to be an authentic brand. People know you get what you see what you get. I'm not smiling. No. I know what I want to project as a person. But all I would say is that, for a career, just decide what makes you happy. And then also define what your idea of success is. Don't put money first. Because if you put money first, you may not. Because sometimes you can do so many pitches, they will take you and you will not make money initially. But if you're good, I always believe money will follow you. And that is exactly what has happened. Money will follow you if you're good. Because after a while, people will look for you. If I had clients in those days, they'll say, put Bunmi on this account. But that's not my career. I'll go and volunteer and say, put her on this one. But I will spend 5 hours if I have to tell you how my career went. But the executive summary was that more often than not, excel, do your very best. Even when you make mistakes, manage mistakes. I remember as a client service director, there are times the clients would have fought themselves, they would have done, maybe they're not happy about something. When they realize, I'll go back to the client and say, sorry sir, that thing, we cannot get it. But I can get it for you in 2 weeks. Please, they'll say, okay, but I'll trust you. Now it becomes your personal reputation. I'll go back to the day and say, the client has given us 1 week because you have to manage expectations. You cannot tell those ones because in between you are the piggy in the middle. So it got to a point that clients so relied on me and respected my opinion in my career that I had clients that would tell me, "Bunmi, is that bill okay? Is it reasonable? Just sign it." And I looked at that and I thought that was something I didn't want to give her. So I will not cheat the client. If we have a problem, I will tell the client. I won't, because my personal reputation too was equally as important as. There were even times in the agencies, I remember they said, "Bunmi, just take this in." I'll go back to my bosses there and say, "Sorry, let me just tell you, you know me, I won't go. Because I'm not going to make a fool of myself because you know, but I will manage." So you have to learn to manage expectations. Manage the results, and manage yourself too. So that's the point that they know you are reliable. And you get the job. In fact, some of my bosses know that you can go to bed, you can go to sleep. You can be sure that job will be done. You won't be telling me stories. Then don't forget, managing crisis is also equally important. There are times that I would have had to go to a client's office, and it could even be sometimes the client has a need. Maybe there was some truth. That's how I became, because I noticed that I cannot, as a woman, I may not go to disco and everything, but I found my way. Every man has a wife, he has children, he has soft spot. So I used to do my own family marketing in the sense that any client I had, I knew all their wives, I knew the husband or whatever, if it's a female or the children. So all I do is that birthday, I'll make sure I'm there. The one that is important. I used, my own was the soft side. I might not go to this, but if I go, I might go for 1 hour. Because I was not anti-party, but I'm married, I have other things I'm going to do. But I wasn't anti-social. So that's another thing. If a client is having a party, we're not saying you should be there from 2, you must be there from 1 to 12. But I might just go there, 10 o'clock, 12 minutes, I've gone. And I come back to my house. Even when we're having things going on conferences, that they're all going to town doesn't mean we will not go to conference. But you don't have to go to town with them. You just say you are tired, let them go. Why they go to town? Me, I'm going to buy a shop for my children. I don't, there are some things you have to use style, but you don't have to become, you're not going to make people feel uncomfortable when you're in the room. If everybody's drinking, in fact, they used to make fun of me, my clients, and they say, "I don't drink alcohol. I'm not an alcohol person." But I say, "Bunmi, can you do alcohol? How can you do tobacco if you don't know?" I say, "I have a natural high, so don't worry about it." So they so found that these people are very lively, she wants to be. And they so took me, but I was also business-like. So they took me, they'll take you for what you are. Performance is what matters. Performance is what matters. So after doing that, but you can't be anti. So part of the job is you also have to be able to be humane, because we're all human beings and we're meeting every day. So how do you manage your clients? So you've got to find your style, what works for you. And honestly, they accept me for it, and people know me for it. In fact, I think that helped me. And people used to wonder, "What, this one is ready," and no apologies for me. If I can't do something, I won't do it, And so I think I was able to earn the reputation of being authentic for myself. This is what you do. It's not like you have to be doing disco. How many disco do you want to go? I went to disco when I was 15, 16, or whatever. I say 18. I don't. Mama I have things to do. But does that mean those going to? You get the young ones in the office. Well, in fact, they're happy. You say, "Well, come and go to so." Then you meet the person once, or you might meet your client 2 times, or you find a way. But I knew all my clients. I'll give you a little tip. Another secret that I'll give it. There was a client once. He was a male client, very senior client. One of our, and he said, "Oh, my wife is coming back. She just had a baby. I have a problem. I need to decorate." I said, "Don't worry, decorate. Don't worry. Consider it done." That was how we broke the ice. I got the balloon person. We got the person to do it, decorated it, did everything. Because the man wanted to impress his wife, and he was a foreigner. And that's how it became. People don't understand. So when they see people say, "This woman, she has," they don't understand the little things you do. Sometimes it might just be, there was a client said, "I need to buy some material." I said, "Take your show is there now. I will come on Saturday. I'll take your wife to the market. We'll go together." There was even my birthday, was even my boss there that was reminding that Bunmi will bake cake. Sometimes somebody's cake. I said, "Okay, let's bake this cake. Let's take it to the." So you got to be yourself. So I'll remember birthdays, wedding. I couldn't. So, but I found that clients respect you for who you are. And if I'm going to do something, I will do it. That was it. When you say do something, do it. Don't say I'll bring you at 2 o'clock and then if there's a problem, please manage the problem. That's all. Nobody's afraid. It takes courage to manage a problem, and that is it. We must always have courage. Things will happen sometimes. You just manage it. So
beautiful. Thank you so much for this, and I want to say a very big thank you.
It's a pleasure.
For gracing us with your presence,
it's a pleasure.
The knowledge. I've learned so much from you, especially around the soft skills. Are you able to manage clients, and how you're building brands. Now it's important for even people to also reinvent themselves as they grow. Thank you so much, Ma, for
And don't forget to have fun along the line.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise you grow old before you're done. No, whatever you do, just have fun. Whether it's in your marriage, I told myself, even then you get my, I said, look, we all pray to God, Abby, that we should live long. Give us one. I say, God now grants it, and we don't die till 97. It's a long time. So you better make sure you're happy. Make sure you're happy with your job, your marriage, your children. Make sure you have good times and enjoy the moments.
Thank you so much, man.
Right,
Really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you must have learned one or two things from the amazing Amazon. And really hope that you're able to imbibe some of these insights, you know, in ensuring that you become a fantastic professional and have longevity, just like she has, career-wise. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really
Thanks for having me.
Here.